Here's to whiskey kisses with peachy taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome to a very special episode of Drinking Out Loud. I am your host, as always, Adam Bradshaw, and for the first time ever, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you not to my kitchen here in beautiful British Columbia, but the new Drinking Out Loud Dram Association studio. The folks at the Strath have been kind enough to let us use one of their hotel rooms for a while. So yeah, we are in much nicer surroundings. This is going to be an absolute pleasure. So my heartfelt gratitude to the hotel manager at the Strath here, Tara, and of course the owners, the Olsons, for letting me use this space. It is I can stretch. I don't have a prison wall behind me. This is just absolutely glorious. It's also a very special episode because we are celebrating Feis Ile, the big Malta Music Festival on Islay, and we are celebrating by having some very cool Islay whiskies. I hesitated there for a second because this is going to be a slightly tricky episode for me. Because you've probably already read in the title, this is all about Bruichladdich. And Bruichladdich is a distillery which I have a bit of a fraught history with. So we'll get into that a little bit later. First off, as always, great idea to stretch before you do any kind of exercise, and, you know, drinking is a certain kind of sport, I guess. So, as always, we're going to stretch here with an opening dram, and this is a very cool opening dram. Very cool. So, I have never had the Islay Mist before. This is a new whiskey to me, but in no way is it a new whiskey in general. It dates back to 1927, and it was invented by a very prestigious member of the whiskey community back then, Ian Hunter. And Ian Hunter was the owner of Laphroaig, which, I mean, it's hard to get a distillery with as much street cred as Laphroaig. You know, it's one of those distilleries that, love it or hate it, everyone knows it. And yeah, I mean, that is a pretty good it's a pretty good pedigree for the origin of this whiskey. It is a traditional style blended Scotch, so it is Laphroaig base. I don't know if it still is today, but at the very least it started off as a Laphroaig base. I'm assuming because it's been around this long, they've probably got long-standing contracts. It probably still is. I don't think it says anywhere on the bottle. I'll give it a read and find out. But it's blended with some Speyside malts and some lowland grain, all of which with a minimum age of 17 years, because this is the Islay Mist 17-year-old. Interestingly, the original Islay Mist was made for a 21st birthday party. Like, I don't really remember what I did for my 21st. I know I was in Wellington, New Zealand at the time. My friend Bob was over. We went to a couple of bars. That's kind of about it. I think I played a gig, maybe. Yeah, I think I played in a cafe or something. Oh, that's right. I had a broken collarbone and it was really hard to play guitar. Ooh. But yeah, I kind of wish I had a custom-made whiskey for my 21st, especially in the quantities that these guys got it made in. So the father, the purchaser of this gift, was a gentleman called Hugh Morrison, which is a fantastic name, but would be even more fantastic if he wasn't Morrison, but just Morris, because Hugh Morris is just a great pun name. It's very humorous. Actually, I think there was a wrestler called Hugh Morris. Yeah, I think there was a professional wrestler called Hugh Morris a while ago, so probably best to stay clear of that name. Anyway, so Hugh Morrison's son got gifted this very special blend made for his 21st birthday, and Hugh Morrison was actually the owner at the time of the Islay House, which is a large sort of stately home on the island of Islay, which these days is a upmarket hotel, which is kind of cool. So, you know, had plenty of spare change, enough, of course, to make their own several barrels of custom whiskey for a 21st birthday. Just nuts. These days, this blend is actually owned by Macduff International, who don't seem to do much else other than have a couple of other whiskey blend brands that I've never heard of. And Macduff International, very confusingly, seem to have nothing at all to do with Macduff Distillery, which is owned by Bacardi. So I don't know quite what's going on there, but let's crack into this opening dram and see what's going on. What's the box say? I mean, cool that it comes in a little box. I mean, as you know, I don't really keep the boxes, and this one is definitely just an okay presentation. 17-year Isle Mist blended Scotch whiskey. It's got a cool little emblem on it, which is cool. Something about St. Agnes, I don't know. Isle Mist is a premium blend of fine-aged whiskies, the most distinctive of these being Laphroaig Single Isle Malt. It actually says Laphroaig on it still, so this is officially Laphroaig in this bottle, which is cool. Isle Mist retains the smoky flavour of Laphroaig whilst offering delightful softness, most appealing to contemporary tastes. See if I'd say the same? It certainly does. Cool. Alright, well, let's crack her open. Nice, easy to retrieve from the box. That's good. Throw that down here. I can't go throwing the boxes around in here. It's not my house. I don't want to damage anything. It's a very nice hotel room. I'll take a couple of shots of the rest of the room so you can see. They've done a really nice job in these renovations. So yeah, 17 years, 750 mils, 40% ABV. So, you know, low as you can go. They're stretching it as thin as they can make it, but honestly, for the price, you can't complain. I'll tell you the price after I've tasted it, because it is nuts, but I don't want that to too much influence what you're about to hear. Isle Mist is a premium blend of fine-aged whiskies that is exactly the same as written on the box. So lots of copying and pasting going on here, although there is the French as well, and I'm not even going to attempt to try that. Let's crack her open. This is a special moment. This is going to be the very first whiskey opened in the new studio. Let's hope it's a satisfying pop. The little cap off. Very nice. Here we go. Ah, not a pop at all! What was that? Oh, it's definitely not real cork. That is... I don't know what that is. Oh, it might be real cork, but it's... No, I don't know. That's some kind of fake cork. But that is... disturbingly loose, to be honest. That goes in and out far too easily. If you buy one of these bottles, might want to think about getting a stopper for it. I don't know what's going on there, but let's give it a try. Beautiful colour, almost definitely fake. But it smells pretty cool. Smells kind of smoky orchard. It's got a nice fresh zesty apple smell to it, but a little bit of that quintessential iodine from the Laphroaig. Iodine and apples. Yeah. Not offensive in any way. I'm definitely looking forward to tasting this one. Not dreading it in the least, which is always good news for a whiskey. Ooh. Yeah, it's quite nice. A little tropical fruit, maybe a papaya kind of thing. A little ashy on the back end. Yeah, imagine if you blended Laphroaig with 17-year-old grain whiskey. Actually, 17. That's a good point. This has got 17-year-old Laphroaig in it. Not just Laphroaig, but 17-year-old at least. Huh. 17-year-old Laphroaig. Nuts. Blended with some grain whiskey and some Speyside. It tastes pretty much exactly as you might imagine. If you've tasted those three components, this is the sum of its parts. I wouldn't say it's any more than the sum of its parts, but it's certainly not any less than the sum of its parts. Yeah, it's good. Zesty, fresh, smoky. I wouldn't throw it out of bed. It's a nice wee whiskey. A little disappointing that it's 40% chill filtered and coloured, but here's the big but. The price is silly. Frankly, just silly. The regular price on this is $167.74. It's available right now for $159.91. Now, considering that's got 17-year-old Laphroaig in it, that's a damn good price. Here's the kicker. I was lying. take $100 off of that. That's right. This is now $59.91, normally $67.74. This is $60 for a 17-year-old Islay malt that contains 17-year-old Laphroaig. Frankly, that is very weird. I'm not going to say it's the best whiskey I've ever had. It's certainly not. It's not even the best $60 whiskey I've ever had. But the fact that it's 17-year-old then contains 17-year-old Laphroaig at that price is effing bonkers, and more than makes up for the fact that you have to buy a new cork, because this is a piece of shit. Yeah, really cool. We had, at the time of recording, we got 4 bottles in stock. I believe, get more, so if we do stock out and you're interested in a bottle, shoot me a message and I'll see if I can get more in. Yeah, I bought it in basically as an experiment, just to see how it is, and it's fine. It's pretty good. It's a fine whiskey at $160. It's a bloody good whiskey at $60. That's my synopsis of it. Yeah. I think a very good introduction to Feis Ile this year. Let's see what we've got on the docket next. So, as I promised, this is a Bruichladdich-centric tasting, and this is a Bruichladdich vertical, and I've got them all staring at me right here. We are doing 2 Bruichladdich, 2 Port Charlottes, and 2 Octomores. Which is very, very exciting. So a little backstory about Bruichladdich. It's a Victorian-era distillery. It's a local favourite over on Islay. Funnily enough, the folks on Islay, despite making a lot of really heavily smoked, heavy single malts, don't actually typically drink that much of it. They're much more into the lighter, fruitier style of whiskies, apparently. I don't know if that's changed now, but back in the day, apparently, that is the case. Back in the day is a funny phrase, isn't it? What day? Tuesday? I don't know. Anyway, apparently, Bruichladdich was a fan favourite of the native Laddichs, which is all cool. But it did suffer a little from quality issues. It suffered so much, in fact, that in 1995 it actually closed down, which is a big shame. However, a guy called Mark Renier, who was the co-owner, I think it was at the time, of an independent bottler called Murray McDavid, saw the potential in Bruichladdich spirit, realised that the spirit itself was still good, like the original pot stills that were still making it with the classic really tall necks, which is how they get their flavour profile, still made really good spirit. The problem was in personnel a little bit. He had some really bad horror stories of trying to visit the distillery and being treated quite poorly, but also in the cask management. And if he knew in his heart that if he could source some good casks and some good people for the distillery, he could make Bruichladdich into something excellent. And that is exactly what he did. In the year 2000, he got a group of investors together and they bought out Bruichladdich, and they completely reopened it, refreshed it with this incredible ideal. They call themselves the Progressive Hebridean Distillers, and it's kind of fun. They use all traditional methods, traditional materials, really good ideals of using locally sourced barley, not just Scottish barley, but in some cases Islay barley as well. They work directly with Islay farmers, and they brought it back, and they were playful with it. So they used, like I said, traditional materials, traditional equipment, all of that, but they're very modern with their approach and their philosophy. So yeah, progressive, yes, but in a steampunk kind of a way. Still very much analog, which is really cool. However, as I mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of that underlying spirit. There is one thing that doesn't quite jive with me personally, which I find a lot in Bruichladdich spirit. And that's just it's sort of a sour milk almost note, a lactic acid note, which for most people is barely perceptible, and for most people they actually enjoy it. For some reason it just twigs in my head. It reactivates some kind of bad memory of having something with a similar flavor before, and I just can't quite jam with it, which is really unfortunate because I absolutely adore the concept of the distillery. I love what they're doing. I really do support what they're doing. And I'm always on a mission to find Bruichladdich that I enjoy. And I'm really looking forward to this tasting because at the very end of it, after I've gone through several that I possibly won't like, there is one that I really like. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, but bear with me through this tunnel. I might pull some funny faces. Oh, I should also mention I might also pull some funny faces and scream a little because I had some dentistry work done yesterday, and my teeth are quite sensitive. So if I do scream, it's not the whiskey's fault. You can blame the dentist. So yeah, Jim McEwen was brought on board by Mark. He's the visionary behind a lot of the new techniques and styles that Bruichladdich put forward. Jim McEwen and Mark have both actually now moved on, and Adam Hannett is their new head distiller, and they've chosen well. I think the distillery's in good hands. We're yet to see, the spirit that Adam Hannett was directly, responsible for, but if his blending techniques are anything to go by, and, the most recent releases of the last 2, maybe 3 years are examples of such, then I think we're in good shape. Like the most recent Black Arts, I think were absolutely incredible for the Black Arts series. So yeah, and then rave reviews from all around from his stuff. So just because Jim McEwen has left doesn't mean that we can just toss Bruichladdich aside, because Adam Hannett is doing a bang-up job at carrying on that legacy. Let's start with the first of today's Bruichladdich. I'm gonna just put this over here. Yeah, it's a good warm-up. It's definitely a suitable warm-up. So, whiskey number 1 of this interesting tasting is the classic 8, the Laddichs 8. So, this is a really interesting whiskey that, by all rights, should not be in my hands for a couple of reasons. So, this is the follow-up of sorts to the original classic Laddie, the 10-year-old, the Laddie 10, which was very successful, had legions of fans. I wasn't one of them, and was then replaced by a non-age statement classic Laddie, which is still available today, which is I don't mean any offense to the distillery. I'm sure a lot of people really love this whiskey. I really don't like it. It is that one note of Bruichladdich that I dislike is very, very strong in the non-age statement. However, they've recently managed to recover enough of the older stock to do an 8-year-old version. So the 10-year-old is still MIA, but this 8-year-old is actually an airport exclusive. I joke sometimes that we end up with these airport exclusives because I painted a helipad on the rooftop patio, just next to the volleyball court up there. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, we are based at the Strathcona Hotel here in Victoria, BC, and we do actually have a rooftop volleyball court. Beach volleyball, it's quite popular, although it's closed right now because of the whole COVID thing. But yeah, really, really cool that we're able to get some of these airport exclusives, which are only supposed to be available to travelers. International travel being somewhat frowned upon and not really possible for a lot of people right now. It's cool. It's good that we're able to get some of these airport releases in the wild. So let's give this one a try. I have tried this one before. We had it in the Dram Association a few months ago, and spoiler alert, I actually don't mind it. It's not going to make me pull too much of a funny face, hopefully, unless the dentist is coming back to haunt me. Ooh, almost bent my nail off there. I always have a hard time getting these lids off, but they are cool lids. Nice. Nice presentation. All right, I should probably do some reading, see what it says on here. Adam Hannett's signature, of course. Travel retail exclusive. Says right there on the box, travel retail exclusive. There are many conventions in the world of whiskey. Convention holds that whiskey should be a certain age. Convention dictates when we should drink it and what we should expect of it. But Bruichladdich is not conventional dram. And as distillers, we have always challenged convention. All right, then, it keeps going. When exceptional barley is left to ferment slowly in a 130-year-old setup of wooden washbacks and open mash tuns, when spirit is patiently trickle, not triple, by the way, in case you're having trouble with my accent, it's only double distilled, trickle distilled, in a way our Victorian predecessors would recognise, when it is sealed in casks of flawless provenance and of premium oak, when it is left to mature all its life yards from where it was distilled, in the teeth of the Atlantic storms that drench the rins of Ile in marine salts. Then time itself becomes more abstract, a journey rather than a destination, when skill and experience is brought together in the warehouse to select and marry the many individual casks to create a dram of thought-provoking complexity, of depth and substance beyond its years. This dram can only be Bruichladdich. Cool. Yeah. I often laugh a little bit at some of the really overly pretentious write-ups on tubes, but I have to say, I'm a fan of that. It was new age poetry almost. It's good. Kind of goes with the whole Progressive Hebridean thing and the fact that this tube itself is just a very modern approach to whiskey presentation. I mean, I like design, I like typography, I like the bold colours. I actually really like the look of the Bruichladdich. I think they're really cool looking. I like the look, I like the idea, I like everything but the whiskey. But hopefully, I keep trying them because I'm hoping that at some point a little switch will turn up in my brain and go, you like that flavour now, it's okay. Your demons have been erased, and now that slightly lactic acidy flavour is something good. And I really, really hope that happens. I want to love you so much, Bruichladdich, but you hurt me. You hurt me. All right. Let's stick this over here somewhere. Crack this guy open. All right. Hopefully this one's going to have a satisfying pop. If it doesn't, I'm going to write an angry letter to Bruichladdich. Ooh, yes, that will do nicely. Okay, Glencairn glass at the ready. It's there. It's there. That note is there on the nose. It's the one Islay distillery I can almost always guess from the nose. Yep. It's got it. It's got it. And I'm really hoping to learn to love it. But what else is there, Adam? Well, there's lemon. There's oak. It's kind of a sherbety kind of a lemon. Very, very zesty. It's both juice and rind. Yeah. You know, if I take that lactic acid thing and take the lemon together, and just imagine in my head that it's a key lime pie, I actually really don't mind the smell of that. That's very good. And for a lot of you who really do just generally enjoy Bruichladdich, you will probably really like this one. I've heard really good things from some of my Bruichladdich loving friends about this dram. It's generally thought of as just as good as the 10-year-old and a hell of a lot better than the non-age statement. So that's, I mean, if you're a fan of the non-age statement but want to kick it up a notch, then go for this guy. We'd actually stopped carrying the non-age statement whilst we had this one in stock, just because it's so much better, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion. Unfortunately, this stock won't last forever. We've only got a few bottles left. So we will bring back the non-age statement for people who like it. But if you're a fan of the non-age statement, this is like $3 more or something, and actually with the sale price it is about to go on, it's less than the non-age statement, so you should definitely treat yourself and get a bottle of the 8. Alright, yeah. Key lime pie. Key lime cheesecake. Yeah, lemony, limey cheesecake. That's actually, it's the perspective shift, right? You've got to shift your perspective to try and jump some hurdles sometimes, and that works. Yeah, if I just say that sour milk note is actually just cheesecake, yeah, I like that. That's good. Still more prominent on the nose though. The palate is definitely If it wasn't for the nose, I think I'd enjoy the palate more. Again, this is all just my own personal thing against that flavour. 99.5% of you whiskey lovers out there will not have that issue and will probably really like this whiskey. I can tell that the quality is impeccable. I can tell that it's a little bit rustic in its style. I can tell that it's got that really nice, light, zesty, fruity notes coming through from the tall still. It is gorgeous. It's a really well presented, well created whiskey that I'm doing my best to love. But I'm not quite there yet. It's still just a little, just slightly off for me. But one day, Bruichladdich. And I have to admit, there have been other distilleries in the past where I've had a similar issue, not quite as long-standing as this one, that I've very much come to love. Deanston. Oh my god, Deanston is the perfect example of that. I'm a Deanston fiend these days. I love everything that they're doing, everything that's coming out. I've been very, very happy with. But my first impression of Deanston was it tasted like stale cardboard that had raisins kept in it. Like, actually, I remember a very specific tasting note from my first time having Deanston, well over a decade ago now. And that was, it tasted like those little cardboard boxes of raisins that you get. Imagine you'd got one of those and you'd put it in your PE kit or your gym bag for school on the first day of school, and then 3 months later at the Christmas break you find it again and you decide to try one of the raisins. It's not good. No, it wasn't good. But whatever note that was that made me think of that, I don't find at all in Deanston's. And whether it's my palate that's changed or whether that's Deanston that's changed, I know they have gone through some changes in the last few years. I'm not quite sure. But I'm hoping the same thing will happen with Bruichladdich, because as I mentioned, I love what they're doing. I love everything about it, but that one flavour note. That being said, before I move on to the second whiskey, which I'm both looking forward to and dreading because it's a Bruichladdich I've never had before, so I might hate it, or maybe it will be my redemption dram. We'll find out in a couple of minutes. This whiskey, it's normally $95.57 on the website. You can get it right now at strathalliquor.com or in store for $82.52. Steal of a deal for an 8-year-old Islay. Especially as normally you would have to pay several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go on a plane and to have the ability to pick one of these up. So, steal of a deal. Pick yourself up a bottle. I should mention it's a 700ml, not a 750. I've been trying to pay attention to that a little more because apparently 50ml matters to a lot of people, and you probably should. So slightly smaller bottle. It's the European size. But yeah, really good quality 8-year-old Bruichladdich. I like it. Let's put the tube down here. Shuffle this guy over here. It's going to take me a little while to get used to the new setup, so sorry if I'm looking over here. I've got a screen right here, so I'm able to place everything nicely. I think that's good. We'll leave that there, and we'll see what we can do with the next one. This is the Organic 2009 vintage, which is cool. Really looking forward to this one. Also dreading, because I might hate it. Ooh, very different presentation. We've got a label rather than printed right onto the glass there. Let's see what information we've got here. All right, it's got a nice little map of Scotland, where it's pointing to a little spot in the Highlands here, and then it zooms into it on the Moray Firth. So just to the northeast of Inverness, it's pointing to, and is Midcool Farms at Dalcross, with farmer William Rose. So Midcool has been farmed by the Rose family since 1912 and is now entirely organic. This progressive 2.75 acre estate... No, No, that's not right. That's too small. That is not a decimal point. That is a comma, and it's actually 2,755 acre estate has a closed-loop fertility system that generates electricity using an anaerobic digester, whilst allowing almost all waste material to be recycled as fertilizer. That certainly fits in with Bruichladdich statement there. The Progressive Hebridean Distillers, of course, they work with the Progressive farm as well. That's really cool. So this is signed again by Adam Hannett. He was in charge when this one got released. Bruichladdich, Barley Provenance Series. Since day one at Bruichladdich, the integrity and provenance of our barley has been paramount. This series explores the esoteric diversity of our essential raw material. The whiskey we distill from the organic barley of Midcool reflects the complex natural flavours of the landscape, just as our stillmen refuse to abandon the traditional crafts of distillation in favour of automation or industrialisation, so farmer William Rose rejects the use of herbicides, pesticides and artificial fertilisers. Crop rotation is key. Our barley must take its turn in a 7-year cycle. That also produces organic cattle, sheep, oats, beans, grass, carrots, market gardening, and a megawatt of green electricity. A megawatt, ladies and gentlemen. Cool. Respecting the land, the soil and climate nourishes a genuine and thorough understanding of terroir, and the result are pure Bruichladdich. Rich, complex, and a fascinating expression of provenance, we can sense, feel, and taste the results in the glass. Once again, land and dram united. So, I've mentioned this before. I truly do not understand how it's possible for terroir to exist through the barley in whiskey. I like the idea. I'd love to have some proof that it does, but I can't get my head around how the flavors of the barley would make it through distillation like that. The whole thing with terroir in wine is the minute differences in the acidity or the amount of liquid in the grapes will change how the wine comes out. But the wine's only like fermented. It's not distilled. I mean, that's brandy. I don't quite understand if it matters. But the one thing, and I've mentioned this before with my whole thing with water in whiskey as well. One thing that you can be certain of is if you are dealing with raw materials that you are particularly proud of, that you are particularly have reverence for, you're going to treat them particularly well. So because this is organic barley, because this is a more expensive grain, because this is a very important thing for the folks at Bruichladdich, they're going to do their best to treat it better than they already, the amazing way that they would normally treat a whiskey. So, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that. Let's find out what it tastes like, and then I'll do a little side-by-side between the 8 and the 2009 organic. One thing to mention with the 2009 organic is I don't actually know the bottling date. I wonder if it's stamped on here. Sometimes it is. I don't see any little stamp. Oh, hang on. It's very faint. All right, so this was bottled in September 25th, 2018. God, that's faint. At 3:01 in the afternoon. So that would make this at least 9 years old. Wait, hang on. Yeah, at least 8 years old, possibly 9 years old, right? Yes, at least 8, possibly 9 years old. So very, very similar, actually, to this 8-year-old. And that's actually perfect, because maybe once and for all, this will show me the difference between a certain barley from a certain field and a mix of barleys from different fields. This is actually perfect. Maybe not only will this redeem Bruichladdich and erase the memories of flavors past, maybe this will also teach me that actually, yes, terroir exists in whiskey. I mean, I feel like I need a bit more data to truly say that, but this would certainly set me on a journey of trying to find out more. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Ooh, I thumb still hurts after trying to open that first one. I really did bend my nail back a bit. All right. Nice. Satisfying. Huh. Okay. Well, I have to go straight into a side-by-side because on first nose, it just smells exactly the same. Okay. There's got to be more Ooh, yeah, hang on, yeah. Okay, yeah, there's definitely a difference there. Okay, cool. There is a difference. I was just going slightly mad. Okay, so I'm now picking up slightly more creamier notes, even more so than I was before. In the 8, the organic has not much creamy notes at all. In fact, hang on. It doesn't have the sour milk note I dislike. It's all of those bright lemons. It's the lemon and the lime and the oak without as much cream. This is more like a lemon curd tart. It's still got the crusty, crumbly base, but it doesn't have the creamy. Huh. That's cool. There's a little bit of a varnish thing going on the nose there, which I don't dislike. Nothing wrong with a bit of a varnish note. That is really interesting, actually. I may be having a whiskey revelation right here. Huh. I had always assumed that note in Bruichladdich that I dislike comes just from the still shape, from the spirit. But maybe, just maybe, it's one of the strains of barley they use, and because this is a specific strain from a specific farm and not a blend of their barleys, maybe there is Teheran whiskey. All right. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's see what it tastes like. Tastes like lemon wafer biscuits. And there is more fruit in there though. It's not just citrus this time. There's a apricot-y tree fruit thing going on too. Yeah. I heavily prefer this one, personally. Huh. Who knew? Not me. This is good. This is real good. Cool. I think I might like Bruichladdich now. Huh. I've got to go back and try the 8 now. Oh. Okay, spoke too soon. That note I don't like is still definitely there in the 8. But it's not there in the organic. And actually, I should also mention, I've never found it in the Black Art series either. So it's something that goes away with age as well. I've never had a problem with the Black Art style. So, well, the only problem I have with the Black Arts is I can't afford them. This is real good. This is real good. Okay, so the Bruichladdich Organic, unfortunately, is a little pricier than the 8-year-old, but in fairness, the grain is probably triple the price because it's organic and from a specific farm, nonetheless, as well. This one is normally $119.04, 119.04, and is right now available at a very special price at $104.26, which is still a stonking good price, to be honest, for Even if it wasn't organic, that's a good price for an 8 or 9 year old small batch Bruichladdich whiskey. That's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I am all of a sudden much more looking forward to the next ones, especially the next one actually, because the next one is on a similar line. All right. I'm gonna move the glasses over here. Move these bottles just a little bit here, maybe a little bit further back, and then I'm dancing around. Okay, so as promised, we're doing 6 Bruichladdich through their 3 different ranges. So this is the Bruichladdich, their house style, their traditional unpeated whiskey that they were known for before they closed in 1995. Next, we're moving to Port Charlotte, which is what they call the heavily peated range, which is funny because it's not their most peated, but it is apparently heavily peated. And in fairness, it is around the sort of same peat level that you would get in Lafroig and Lagavulin and Kalila and, you know, some of its island neighbours. So it kind of makes sense. It's 40, I think, ppm that they 40 ppm that they do the barley to for the Port Charlottes, give or take. So they started making Port Charlotte in 2001. It was first released in 2006 as a 5-year-old, which was huge at the time. A big, prestigious distillery releasing a whiskey at 5 years old sent some ripples and shockwaves through the industry, and they're probably one of the reasons that a lot of distilleries are able to proudly state a younger age statement on their whiskies these days. We've just seen, of course, the Ardbeg Wee Beastie, which should be arriving in BC at some point in the future. I should probably touch base with them again and see what's going on with that. Last time I got in contact with someone from the company that imports Ardbeg, I was basically just told, COVID's happening, go away, which is, fair. So, this is an official bottling Port Charlotte. This is the Islay Barley 2012. So quite like the organic, which uses barley from a specific farm, this uses barley specifically from a group of farms, all on the island of Islay. So the ingredients of this whiskey, the barley, the water, I guess theoretically the yeast as well, are all from Islay. It was brewed on Islay, distilled on Islay, matured on Islay, bottled on Islay. That's cool. This is just Islay. This is a box of Islay, or a tube of Islay. Oh, it actually has a list of the farms on the front here. Island Farm, Cruach Farm, Starch Mill, Cool, Rockside, Dunlosset Estates, Mullindery, Sunderland. Cool. We are a community committed to our island, and to our radical principles of whiskey making. This Islay single malt is an expression of who we are and where we're from. Heavily peated with elegance and finesse, it is a unique whiskey no one else could have made. We crafted it only the way we know how. The hard way, by hand, nose and eye, on ancient, stubborn equipment. That's a good description. With passion and respect, with soul. Cool. We believe in barley, in its origins and its provenance. To us, barley is the essence of single malt whiskey, a living expression of the land that nurtured it. To us, it is no mere commodity. Fair. In 2004, backing our drive for the ultimate Islay single malt, farmer Raymond Stewart grew barley for us at Kentraw, just a mile away from the distillery. His harvest was then malted and distilled separately. We believe the first time ever an Islay single malt had been made exclusively from 100% Islay grown grain. So, yeah, apparently the first time back in 2004 was actually... So that's only 3 years after they started making Port Charlotte. Only 3 years in, they hadn't even released a Port Charlotte yet, and they had the foresight to start doing Islay only distillations. That's cool. This Port Charlotte dram was distilled in 2012 using barley from 8 Islay farmers. Ian Torrance at Starch Mill, Hunter Jackson at Cruach, Ian McCarroll at Island Farm, Raymond Fletcher at Dunlosset Estate, Donald and Andrew Jones at Cool, Mark French at Rockside, Alistair Torrance at Mullindery, and Raymond Stewart at Sunderland. I feel like I was just reading the credits to a movie. In all, we now have 19 farmers who have made the commitment to grow for us and to whom we are equally committed. This barley is who we are. This is where we're from. Again, absolutely love the concepts and the idea behind what Bruichladdich are doing. I wholeheartedly support them. Yeah, really cool. Let's see if I can open this one without breaking my fingers. There we go. Not bad at all. I also love the lids. That's just the design on these is just glorious. Oh, there's even a yellow insert in the tube. That's good follow through. 10 out of 10 on the design, and yes, for those of you who haven't seen these yet, Port Charlotte officially have their own bottle shape now. They're not just Bruichladdich bottles with a different label slapped on it. They've got their own bespoke bottle shape with actually some imprinted text on the back as well. Isla Single Malt Port Charlotte Progressive Hebridean Distillers. So if you take off the labels and leave this on, it looks super cool on your shelf. Yeah, I definitely would just peel this label right off and then just stick it on the shelf backwards. That looks neat. Yeah, I don't think there's any more information really on the bottle that I can give you, although let's look for that all-important bottling date, because that will tell us the age, because this was distilled in 2012. Oh, actually, it says the age just beneath. Isle of Barley 2012. 6 years aged in oak casks. Well, there we go. 6. This is 6, which is 1 year older than the original Port Charlotte, so that's cool. I believe from if memory serves me right, I believe this is 75% bourbon with 25% wine casks as well, which is something they do more with their Port Charlotte releases. It's something I'm quite a fan of. I like what happens when you add wine casks to these peated ones. Cool. Nice. All right. Okay. Well, I can smell it already. So that's a good start. Okay. Haven't had this one before. Definitely has that unmistakable... I'm just going to say it. I've been skirting around it. I keep saying like lactic acid and sour milk. The note I get in salts of Bruichladdich is the best way of describing it is baby vomit, which is unfortunate. But I'm just going to say it because I don't want to lie to you lovely people. This smells just a smidgen of milky vomit. I know this whiskey has legions of fans, and I know that a lot of the people that try this are going to absolutely love it. I'm gonna do my best. I'm immediately retracting slightly, but what else? Let's see what else I can find in there to try and see if I can get past it. Because once I get past it, I might be okay. Bananas. Yep. Cherries and bananas on the nose. Definitely smoke. Kind of a savory bacon-like smoke. Kind of more of a wood fire. All right. Okay. So here's the problem. Here's the issue with this whiskey. This whiskey tastes incredible. But I feel like maybe I can... That's my answer. All I need to do to really enjoy this whiskey is just drink it with pinching my nose. Now, for those of you saying, Adam, you've touched your face, you should be sanitizing your hands, I left my sanitizer all the way over there. So I'm going to sanitize my hands and all of this stuff after I finish recording the video. So
You can hold me to that. If I remember, I'll take a photograph to prove it. Yeah, that is gorgeous. That is frankly delicious on the palate. Yeah, not quite sure what to think of that. Nowhere near as peaty as it would suggest with the name heavily peated. It's 40 ppm, but that is the ppm of the barley, and there's a lot that happens between the peating of the barley and the drinking of the whiskey. There's a whole suite of things that are going to affect how smoky this whiskey is in between, and we'll talk about a little more with Octomore, because that's one thing that I just, I don't want to. There's a lot of confusion about Octomore, and I want to set some of that straight later. Okay, so now I'm getting used to the palate, and I can pinpoint some of those other flavors that are going on. Porridge, definitely porridge. Smoky porridge. I'm definitely able to smell it without recoiling now, which is useful. Yeah, it's good. That's really nice. All right, full points. Good work, guys. This one is interesting as well, because this is an exclusive here in BC, a joint exclusive. I was very grateful to be offered some of this, because this was actually brought in exclusively for the Jack's group, who we are partnering with on exclusive whiskies. So we managed to get a couple of cases of this from Jack's. So special thanks to Lynn, if you happen to be watching. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing some of your Port Charlotte with us. We'll make sure we share something equally as good with you in due time. But yeah, this is nice. I'm happy. I can actually give this one a big thumbs up and suggest that people try it. It's really good. The price on this is also excellent. This is normally $112.96 and can be yours for $99.04, the sub 100 mark, which is fantastic for a nice peated whiskey. 50% ABV as well. Not sure if I mentioned. Pretty much all of the base expressions from Bruichladdich are 50%, which is cool. Yeah, looking good. All right, we're in the home stretch, because although we have 3 whiskeys left, I've tried 2 of them before and I know I like them, and one of those is the next whiskey. This is very cool. This is the only independently bottled Port Charlotte or Bruichladdich at all that we've got in this tasting, or ever seen in the store, actually. Ooh, that's a horrible sound. There we go. Cooper's Choice. So for those of you not familiar with Cooper's Choice, they're an independent bottler. I've been really impressed by a lot of the stuff they've been coming out with recently. They were a little hit and miss back in the day. There's been a few Cooper's Choices which I've been confused as to why they would release it as a single cask. But pretty much since they rebranded, since they've got these nice new labels, I've not had an issue with them. They've been pretty consistent. This I picked up the lion's share of here in BC. I think I got 3/4 of the stock that was available, just because I can't remember the last time I saw an independently bottled Bruichladdich in the market here. And more than that, this is an independently bottled Port Charlotte, which is very cool. It's also one of the oldest Port Charlottes that I've ever tasted. Possibly, actually, the oldest Port Charlotte I've ever tasted. Like I said, only started doing it in 2001. This was distilled in 2006, the same year that they first released the original Port Charlotte, only 5 years old. So this is more than double the age that Bruichladdich thought the whiskey was good to bottle at, which is cool. Yeah, 11 years old from 2006, bottled then, I guess, in, it says here, 2018 it was bottled in. Matured entirely in a bourbon cask. It was cask number 2336, one of only 345 bottles ever made. That is the beauty of these single cask releases. And I love this single cask release, and one of the reasons I went hard on buying it is because it's a whiskey that I personally can advise people to buy. I absolutely, on my own taste, I absolutely love it because I don't get that sour milk thing. I don't get the baby vomit at all in this one, which is good news. Good news all round. Again, 99.5% of you won't get that note anyway, so not particularly good news for you guys, but great news for the 0.5% of us that might pick up that note. Ooh, that's possibly even more satisfying than the official bottlings. Good work, Cooper's Choice. That is a solid 9 out of 10 for the pop. The pop and glug, that should be a score. 9 out of 10 for the pop and glug. Yeah, that's great smelling. This, more than pretty much any other Islay whiskey, Port Charlotte seems to lose its peatedness with age. Like, this is quite peaty at 6 years old, almost doubled to 11. The peat has less than half, or over half rather. It's less than half of the peat level. This is now an 11-year-old Port Charlotte tastes more to me like an 18-year-old any other Islay, in terms of how the peat levels have reduced and integrated into the rest of the flavors. It matures incredibly well. It might be partially to do with the special attention given to the casks. It might be more to do with the extra long fermentation and distillation times. It could be to do with the long necks. I'm not entirely sure why, but Bruichladdich, whilst absolutely works well at a younger age, seems to mature really, really well. So we had this one before in the Dram Association. It actually scored 92.86, which is an incredibly good score for us. That's a group score for those of you not familiar with our club. Everyone that tastes it submits their score, and then we take an average, getting rid of some outliers for personal taste. If someone doesn't like peat and scores it a 60, well, we'll just ignore them. So yeah, we do like a double standard deviation outlier thing. So anything that's more than twice of the standard deviation away, we get rid of it, and then we keep doing that until we've distilled it down to like the agreeable group. I think that was actually what it was called when I did stats in university. I think it was called the agreeable group principle or something like that. But yeah, it's a good way of getting rid of bias and personal taste in the assessment of a product. Yeah. This is nice. This is nice. I'm getting different things to the last time I got, I'm sure. Really, it's, again, complexity is a word that should be used sparingly in whiskey because it's a bit of a trope now. But it's quite complex. That being said, it is quite complex. Custardy on the nose, banana and vanilla custard. The smoke, whilst there, is subtle and integrated. There is a little bit of that citricness which I get in all the other Bruichladdich, but nowhere near as much. It's a much more... The wood influence is much more there. Those vanillins are definitely present. And the palate... is very good. Custard, definitely getting custard following through on the palate as well. Again with the biscuitiness, but yeah, really nice rich vanilla. There's a little bit more of the citrus of the lemon, the peel rather than the juice coming through, mixing with the vanillas. The tree fruit that I got in the last Port Charlotte as well, a little bit of apricot in there. Just a really well-balanced, really well thought out single cask. And maybe one of the reasons that Cooper's Choice was able to get this cask, maybe it's because it doesn't have that quintessential Bruichladdich flavor note, which is not I don't like about Bruichladdich. Maybe that's the reason they sold it, because it wasn't in keeping with the distillery's regular characteristic. Or maybe they just thought this cask sings a lovely solo and doesn't need to be part of a harmony. But it's very, very good. It's very, very good. And again, something that you just don't see on the market here. I don't think I have ever seen another Bruichladdich or Port Charlotte or Octomore independently bottled whiskey in BC in my entire time here. So that's exciting. Yeah. Huge thumbs up from me, and more importantly, a big thumbs up from the Dram Association who tried this at tastings last year. Yeah, fantastic whiskey, and I'm going to be bringing back the original Dram Association discount on this, the same price that it was the first time we had it. So its regular price is $278.17. Again, this is pricey because A, it's a single cask, B, it's like double the age of the other one, so if you take those things into account, it kind of makes sense for the price. I mean, if you think a 6-year-old's, 115, then an 11-year-old should be theoretically double that. That's kind of how whiskey tends to go. It's exponential in a sense as well, because if you then got a 22-year-old, it would be a hell of a lot more than double it again. But yeah, it kind of makes sense. Plus, it's a single cask, which makes it rarer. Plus, there's a middleman as well, Cooper's Choice. So the price, though it does sound expensive, does actually make sense if you think about it. That's kind of why I brought it in, because it is pricey, but I think worthwhile given both the quality and the rarity. Anyway, the special price that you can get it at right now is $243.39, $243.39 for the next couple of weeks, I guess, until I remember to take it off the special price. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Very happy with that. Good work, Port Charlotte. So I should mention as well, the name Port Charlotte comes from an old distillery on Islay that closed down quite a while ago. So they didn't just pull a name out of nowhere. It actually has precedence, it has a reason for existence. Much like the next whiskey. So this is the Octomore series, which, first released in 2008. It is a super heavily peated whiskey. So they went particularly over the top with the Octomore series. So 55 ppm is what Ardbeg peats at, and that is kind of the heavily peated style, which is why they can get away with calling 40 ppm heavily peated, because by all rights it kind of is. The Octomore kind of just broke the scale a little bit. They went a bit mad. I think to date the most heavily peated was the 6.3, which was like 250 something. Hey, that's nuts. But I'm here to tell you that is not the most important thing about an Octomore. I know that sounds mad. Octomore is so much more than the ppm, especially, as I said at the Port Charlotte, the ppm is kind of meaningless in a sense, because that's the ppm of the peated barley, not the finished product. And as I mentioned, there's a whole lot of things that happen between peating and drinking. One of the most important things, of course, is distillation. And those really tall, slender stills that they have at Bruichladdich actually impact the peat level of the whiskey quite substantially. And I would say that even the peatiest Octomore that I've had, and I've not had the 6.3, but I've had some, 200 around ppms, haven't actually been much more peated than Ardbeg 10. Really. At the end of the day, similar peat levels, despite having 3 times, theoretically, the amount of peat in them. Because, it doesn't really matter how peaty you make the barley. There's only so much peat you can extract from the barley in the first place. That's another thing. It's got to go, before distillation, it's got to go through the brewing process, and the brewing process can only take so much flavor out of the husks of the barley, which is where the peat flavor, the ppm, comes from, right? It's cool, and it's a big marketing number that they can do, and I know that a lot of folks at Ardbeg are like, you bastards, you're lying to everyone. I mean, they're not lying. They are peating it to that level. What they don't mention is that it doesn't really matter that much. But what does matter is what they do with it afterwards. And some of the Octomores have been really well created, especially the ones that Adam Hannett has had a hand in as well. So we're going to start with the most recent Octomore that we've managed to bring in here to the Strath. And I've just a second realised that actually I've got the wrong one right here, and I need to nip over to my little cupboard and fetch the right one. So I'll just be a second. And with the magic of video editing, that should have literally just been a second. Took a little while longer than that. Lovely. This is the Octomore 9.1, which is the most recent of the Octomores that we've managed to get in here at the Strath. Octomore, of course, one of the most requested items at the Strath. People are always like, what Octomores do you have? And I'm like, well, we have what we can get, and that's about it. I'm always asked, can you get this one? I'm like, no, Octomore is not something that you ask for and get given. Octomore is something that you are offered and say yes to. That is just how it works here, unfortunately. Most of the time, actually. I should mention most of the time that's what happens. I was a little cheeky with the next whiskey, but we'll get to that in a second. So very little information on this one. No huge write-up like there is normally on the Port Charlotte tins or on the Bruichladdich tins. This one just says, super heavily peated, Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, conceived, distilled and matured and bottled, unchilled, filtered, and colouring free at Bruichladdich Distillery, Islay, Scotland. 59.1% cask strength. That is how I like it. And this is the 9.1 Dialogus, I think is how they're pronouncing this random string of glyphs. I think they're calling that Dialogus. They're not real letters. It's all Greek letters that I can't quite make. I think it's a Dialogus. Anyway. So this is 5 years old. It is 156 ppm, so just under triple the peating level of Ardbeg, theoretically. Again, doesn't really matter. What matters is how it tastes, and that is what we are about to find out next. So let's crack into this slender torpedo-shaped bottle, if I can get the foil. There we go. Happy days. Down here. Yeah. Good pop. Alright. Yeah, it doesn't really say anything else on the bottle as well. I should have checked that before I opened it. But yeah, same information on the bottle as was on the tube. Ooh. 10 out of 10 for the glug there. That was a chorus of glugging sounds. A veritable chorus. Oh, it does say on the neck though, hidden up here, one of only 42,000 bottles. That sounds like a lot, but actually, if you think of how many whiskey drinkers there are in the world, a lot of people won't be able to get this. That is actually quite a small amount. It sounds ridiculous after just saying that the Port Charlotte was one of 345, but there's a big difference between an official bottling and an independent single cask. For an official bottling, 42,000 is relatively small. Hey, that's really good smelling, actually. So I've never really had the lactic acid problem with Octomore. For whatever reason, the extra peating just kind of rips that flavor note out there. I have no issue with Octomore, apart from the potential slight mistruths in the marketing and occasionally the price, although they're getting better on that. Yeah, so this is ex-American whiskey, so not specifically bourbon, so it might have ex-rye casks in there or other types of American whiskey, maybe a wheat whiskey. But definitely American oak. Yeah, smells like vanilla and American oak. And a lot of peat. Definitely back with the bacon. And it is definitely cask strength. It is making the hairs on the inside of my nose tingle. You know, sometimes when you smell a whiskey a little too strongly and it makes you want to sneeze. Yeah, I'm getting that. That's very good though. Yeah, it's about what I remember a lot of the really popular heavily peated Octomores to smell like, to be honest. Again, I've not had this one before, but yeah. If you've been a fan of the other bourbon cask Octomores, which is most of the 0.1s, I think is how they kind of work it, this is smelling right in line with the rest of the series. Oh. Alright, that is a bit of a herb bomb. There's a lot of herbs going on in there. There's rosemary, thyme, all kinds of All kinds of garden herbs, the kind of things that you throw in a roast chicken. Oh yeah. Yeah, rosemary and thyme for sure. It's really nice with that vanilla base, actually. That's good. Adam Hannett's nose, I know this is slightly sacrilegious to say, but I think Adam Hannett knows his way around the Octomore slightly better than Jim McEwen did. I think Octomore has improved since the handover. Sorry, Jim. Yeah. My issue with Octomore in the past has been one-trick pony. The Octomores that I had early on just felt like peat for peat's sake and didn't really feel like they knew what else to do with it. They were just like, here's peats. Enjoy. Now it feels like they're actually thinking about the peats in contrast to the other flavors surrounding it. They've peated this one to a certain, not over the top level, but then they've managed to make it work really well with the other flavors that are going on in it. Yeah, happy. Really, really happy with the 9.1. I don't think that's going to disappoint anyone who's a fan of that style. Yeah, decent whiskey. The unfortunate thing is we actually, at the time of recording, only have one bottle left, and there's every chance that in the approximately a week between now and when this actually airs on YouTube, it might have sold out already. So if there is a bottle left, you can try and get it. It's normally $234.70, and if there's one left, we'll sell it to you as a special last-of deal at $206.87. If there's one left, I'll put it in the live chat right now, and if there isn't, then I will let you know with a sad face emoji. I think that's the first time I've mentioned the live chat. Hi to everyone in the live chat. It's good to see you all. I'll be there too. So I've probably said hi to you in text, but I should do it, on video as well. It's nice to be acknowledged on video. Hi everybody. Now comes the big finale. I mentioned at the outset of this tasting that I wasn't too worried about the fact that I have a love-hate relationship with Bruichladdich, because the last whiskey today is one that I absolutely know that not only do I love, I have bought 2 bottles of, and might buy a third quite soon. Alright. You probably know where I'm going with this. Octomore 8.2. A whiskey which we should not have ever had again. This is an airport exclusive, and we got this before the airport did. We actually managed to get 90 bottles of this, and we're down to the last, I think, 12 now. And I have wrecked my fingers so many times on getting these open. Oh my god. There we go, that is tight. Whew, we made it. Yeah, alright. Octomore 8.2, the masterclass. And this is a masterclass of not only distillation, but more importantly, blending. Holy crap, this is a cool whiskey, which I am very familiar with by now, and still a huge fan of. Cool. Let's crack her open. So yeah, airport exclusive, shouldn't have it, do have it. Not only do we have it, we ended up, I think, with more than the Vancouver airport ever actually ended up with. Yeah. You gotta take advantage of these things when you come across them. But we actually also, I believe, had it for cheaper than the Vancouver airports, which is funny. A lot of people think, oh, those deals at the airports are great because you're not paying tax. Well, yeah, you're not paying the 15% tax, but you're paying an extra 30% markup, so it doesn't really work out that well necessarily. Yeah, that's a good pop. All right. Look at that color. That is beautiful. And all natural. This is 58.4% alcohol. So again, cask strength. Yeah, non-chill filtered, no coloring added. This one's peated to 167, and this is actually 8 years old. So a full 3 years older than the 9.1. And the thing with the 8.2 is that it is pretty much, it's their more experimental, I guess, parts of the series. So this one, they didn't just peat it, find a good cask, make them go together. They got really into the blending of this one, and really into the creation process. So what they did is they got a 6-year-old cask of French Mourvedre, I don't actually know how to pronounce it, French red wine, begins with an M, Mourvedre, anyway, 6-year-old that, blended it with some 6-year-old Hungarian sweet wine cask, I assume Tokai, but they don't say Tokai, so it might be a slightly different variety of Hungarian sweet wine, and a 6-year-old Sauternes cask, which is the botrytis-affected French dessert wine. Usually gives it a slightly funky flavour. They got those 3 casks, all 3 of which were at least 6 years old, and then they blended them together and matured them for an extra 2 years in an Italian red Amarone cask. Super, super cool. And for the first time ever in an Octomore, it feels like the level of peat is justified. The amazing flavors that you get from that incredible quadrilogy of wine casks. Actually, they don't hide the peat, they don't clash with the peat, they elevate the peat and meld with the peat in this beautiful, harmonious dance of sweet fruits and smoke. And this is probably one of my all-time favorite peated whiskies of the last few years' releases. This is up there with, I mean, for official bottlings, I don't count, like, we've had some ridiculous SNWSs. The Dutch Dentist Dram, the Evil Dutch Dentist Dram, for example, was insane. But for official bottling releases, like, it's pretty much neck and neck between this and Lefroy Glor, if you take into account the price. The Lefroy Glor is about 200, this is about 300. This is objectively better than Lefroy Glor. Whether it's $100 better is debatable, but both of them are 2 of my all-time favorites of the last few years. But this is so damn good. I'm just gonna grab my dram of the original 8-year-old that we got, because this is the same age, unpeated and peated. You know, the funny thing is, now that I've gone through the gamut and kind of got used to all of the Bruichladdich intricate flavors, going back to that 8-year-old, I don't actually get, I don't get that off note anymore. Maybe it was never there. Maybe it just triggered something in my mind that reminded me of the off note, and the off note itself wasn't there. That's very possible. I'm very suggestible. Huh. Oh, Jesus. There is so much more going on in the Octomore. It's not just the cask strength and the peat level. It's just this... It's an explosion of flavor, but presented in this really beautiful, delicate way. The actual... The name that we gave this when we released it in the Dram Association, we give them all SNWS-style nicknames, was Iron Fist in a Velvet Glove. And that was actually... pretty much, I think it was actually a year ago this week. It was actually the first release in year 3, I guess, of the Dram Association. Which I guess means that the Dram Association is now 3 years old and we're into our 4th season. Happy birthday, I guess. I forgot to keep track of that because this is not a normal year. But that's cool. Yeah, Iron Fist in a Velvet Glove. And as much as I highly rate this whiskey, the members rate it just as high. This scored 94.87 points. 94.87 in the Dram Association's official scoring as the group average of people's scorecards. I don't know if it still is. I know at the time, I'm pretty sure that was the highest score of any in-store dram. I think we'd only had... whiskeys that were featured at special tastings score higher than that at the time. This was, the highest thing that you could go into the store and sample for $5, or that was included with your subscription. It's pretty impressive. That's a hell of a score for this whiskey. Oh yeah. It's like drinking Lapsang Souchong at a fish market whilst wearing some kind of berry compote face mask. It is as bizarre as that scenario. It is incredibly just powerful, but delicate. It is floral, it is fruity, it is smoky, it is everything in between. There's that old saying, you know, the jack of all trades and the king of none, or whatever, or master of none. This isn't the jack of all trades. This isn't quite the king of all trades, because I don't think that exists, but this is at least the queen. This does many things very well. And it's a testament to the abilities of everyone that went into creating this whiskey. Adam Hannett, I was just double checking to make sure it was an Adam Hannett one and not a McEwen, because that would have been awkward. But yeah, Adam Hannett is an absolute master at balancing those rich wine cask flavors with the peat. It just works on an incredible level. And I'm really glad to be having an excuse to crack open yet another bottle of this, because yeah, it's a gorgeous whiskey. And I hope those of you who have managed to try this agree with me. We've sold I guess 68 bottles at this point. No, wait. 78 bottles. We've sold 78 bottles of this in the last year and haven't had a single complaint, so that's a good note. That's good. We've sold several people have bought more than one of this, not just me. So that is a great sign for a whiskey. Because in these days, when there's several thousand whiskies being produced in Scotland every year, different bottles, it's really hard to actually go and buy the same whiskey twice these days. So I can guarantee that at least a dozen people, if not more, have bought more than one of this from the Strath, and not both at the same time. It's not just a buy two to save one and drink one kind of scenario. There have been a lot of people that have come back to me and said, "Adam, do you still have the 8.2? Because I finished my bottle and I whilst I regret nothing in terms of the fact that I drank it and enjoyed it, I do regret not buying a second." So yeah. Yeah. However, that being said, we can't hold on to them forever. We do have 12 left, so I'm reverting back to the original discount on this whiskey. A discount that saw us sell over 50 bottles in the first day, I think it was. Something ridiculous. That's why we took the discount off, because it was too popular. This is normally $260.78 on the web store. You can get one of the last dozen bottles right now for $217.30. $217.30 for this. Definitely the best Octomore I've ever had. One of the best peated whiskies in recent memory. And an airport exclusive that you shouldn't really be able to get anywhere else now. I think we've probably got some of the last in the province. If the airport has any, it's not worth the price of a plane ticket just to go get this, or maybe it is. But it's not right now because we have some. Once we're sold out, maybe it's worth thinking about getting a plane ticket and not actually getting on a plane, because traveling's a bad idea right now, guys. Yeah, really happy with this whiskey. I'm definitely going to be picking up another one. I keep saying 12 because I know right now there's 13, but I'm definitely getting one of them. So yeah, this is excellent. Well, oh man, that's good. So this has been our vertical of Bruichladdich, and of course, the Islay Mist 17-year-old here was our opening dram. I thoroughly enjoyed this epic tasting. I hope you guys have as well. I think I've learned some things here today about Bruichladdich and my relationship with them. I thoroughly encourage all of you to develop your own relationship with this very unique and endearing distillery. On that note, I will bid you farewell and say I'll see you again on Sunday, because in a couple of days' time we're keeping the Feis Ile Festival rolling with a distillery which you, our viewers, actually voted to feature. I gave you the choice of pretty much any other distillery on Islay, and you chose Bunnahabhain. So we are going to have a little mini Bunnahabhain vertical. It's not going to be quite as big as this. So I think we're doing four different Bunnahabhains coming up soon. So tune in again in a couple of days' time, and we will discover another distillery. And not only will we discover another distillery, we will actually have a special guest here on the show as well. We'll have a special video message, hopefully, from someone who knows Bunnahabhain very, very well. So Slán Sivar, good night, stay well, have a great weekend. I'll see you Sunday evening. Cheers.
Here's to whiskey kisses with the peachy taste of scent.